Hello everyone, how are you today? It's good to see you here. My name is Dreamers, and today I will be discussing a theory that has been forming in my mind as I write my Ace Attorney, Layton, and Danganronpa story. This theory is that Sherlock Holmes is the ancestor to Professor Herschel Layton. I found a lot of parallels between the detective from a foggy town to the archaeologist when I was going through my playthroughs of both games. I have proof that these two are definitely related and how their relationship is similar to that of Phoenix Wright and Ryusuke Naruhondo. First off, we need to look at the game's timeline of events, but before we do that, we need to remind ourselves something important. This is the world of video games. It should not reflect our world's history at all. It should be different. It can be based off our world's history, but that does not mean it follows down the same path as our history. As one of the creators for the games has stated, it takes place in an alternate universe Los Angeles, where Japanese culture was allowed to flourish without receiving harsh prejudices in our world's history. This is all fantasy with some notes taken from our world's history to create a wonderful video game for us to enjoy. Now, the crossover game happens between the Diabolical Box and the Unwound Future for the Layton series, while for the Ace Attorney series, it is speculated to take place between Trials and Tribulations and Miles Edgeworth Investigation 1, since Miles makes an appearance in the game's final scene. So it is possible that these two series are linked and crossed over with each other more than once. As for the Great Ace Attorney, it takes place during the Meiji period of Japan and the Industrial Revolution in Great Britain. This is about the 18th century. The gameplay styles for Professor Layton vs. Phoenix Wright and the Great Ace Attorney are actually very similar, which makes sense. Both games were developed around the same time in 2013, with Professor Layton vs. Phoenix Wright being made later in the year, and director and creator of Ace Attorney Shu Takumi was told to think up a new game for the Ace Attorney series, which would lead to the Japan-only release, The Great Ace Attorney Duology. Why is the gameplay important? Well, the gameplay between the crossover game and the duology is surprisingly similar. Using the cursor to find hidden items, this is more towards the Layton side of the games, but this was also used in the Great Ace Attorney when Naruhondo was examining crime scenes. He had to look at the scene and observe it. The characters even chime in to voice their inputs on the matter. What makes this more compelling is that you can select who to talk to in the Great Ace Attorney. Yes, this feature was in the Miles Investigation series, but it wasn't in the other mainline Ace Attorney games. I find it very interesting that this feature was used in the Great Ace Attorney and mainly with Sherlock and the others. It reminded me of how Professor Layton would talk to others in his game. You can tap on a character and speak with the character to get a puzzle or some info. Trials and courts. This might be surprising, but having multiple witnesses on the stand or talking to the jurors was actually introduced in Professor Layton vs. Phoenix Wright. Phoenix has to cross-examine 4 witnesses on the stand. It is then that Layton shows up to suggest that Phoenix compares the witnesses' testimonies to each other's to find contradictions. When I saw that again in the Great Ace Attorney, I was surprised. We don't see this again in the mainline games, but it was a huge mechanic in the duology. Naruhondo has to find the contradictions in the witness's testimony, as well as the contradictions in the juror's testimony. Although Sherlock isn't the one who introduces this feature, I still find it interesting that this mechanic was brought up again in the duology, where Naruhondo is in Great Britain at the time. Joint reasoning and puzzle-solving skills. Although these two features are very different, they actually serve as the same function. Phoenix and Naruhondo work with Professor Layton and Sherlock in these certain parts of the game. Phoenix and Layton work together to solve puzzles, while Naruhondo and Sherlock work together in Sherlock Holmes' theater of logic and deductions. In both cases, it is the two of them working together to solve the mysteries behind the puzzle or the deduction, though this is really only shown with Naruhondo more than Phoenix. However, during the final case of the crossover game, Layton and Phoenix do work together to reveal the truth behind Labyrinthia in a similar fashion to Naruhodo and Sherlock do with their deductions. Sherlock's personality. It should be noted that Sherlock acts goofy and makes the most outrageous deductions that make little to no sense with the actual case at hand. Susato notes this when she first meets him, that he is very different from how he acts in his books. He is seen as a forgetful person and in his own little world, which does affect his deductions. However, this is a persona of his at times. I know we all believe Holmes to be a funny and clumsy person, but this is not who he really is. This is just a facade he puts up to frustrate others and to entertain himself. It should be noted that he acts like a gentleman to most women and respects others in a gentlemanly manner. His true personality is shown in the first case where Sherlock debuts and the final case of the great Ace Attorney. He acts so serious throughout the cases and cares for his friends deeply. When Naruhodo tries to prove he didn't kill his best friend Asugi, at first Sherlock is hesitant, but after hearing and seeing how determined Naruhodo is to find Asugi's true killer, Sherlock allows him to move around and even helps him with finding the truth behind Asugi's incident. However, he only came to the boat when he intercepted a telegram about Asugi being in danger. He even helps Nikomina receive asylum in America, even though she was a stowaway and indirectly responsible for Asugi's fake death. He even lets Naruhodo and Susato live with him at his flat after meeting them one time on a boat and during a crime. As for the final case, Sherlock rushes to the pawn shop to see what is happening. He makes sure that Susato and Naruhodo are safe, even though he's the one who got shot. We clearly see his true personality take place, where he is like the serious detective he is known for in his stories. When he discovers the true killer behind his best friend John H. Watson's death, he gets angry and forceful, which is not the personality we are all used to seeing him have. In truth, he wants to find the truth at all costs. He is even seen throughout the game snooping around in places where he shouldn't be at times, and hearing about events he should know nothing about. It is important to note that this silly illogical deductions are intentional in order for Naruhodo and the others to discover the truth for themselves, when in truth, Sherlock already figured out the case. This proves that Sherlock is smart, good at his deductions, and can be very serious when the situation calls for it. He also has trust issues with most people he meets, because of everything he has gone through. He is always wary of others, though the exception to this is Susato's dad, Yujin, because they have been friends for so long. Sherlock's trust is earned when he sees for himself what a person is truly like, which is best shown with his time with Naruhodo and Susato when they first met on the boat. He is shown to be wary around Gina due to her being a pickpocketer and even stealing Iris's inventions to get away from the police. However, once he realized that Gina was trying to help Iris, he realized she was just a lonely girl looking after his only daughter. Lastly, his relationship with Iris is very important. He acts like such a caring father to her, and even allows Iris to write stories about his travels, and lets her become an inventor. He even lets her come with him on some of his adventures. He lets her do whatever she wants and supports her with it. He is even overprotective about her past and her father, Klimt von Sykes, who was a serial killer. He didn't want Iris to ever know about this because he didn't want her to live a life knowing she was the daughter of a murderer. He hid everything about her true father from her and let her believe that her real father was his best friend, John Watson. Now it's time to look at Layton's personality. The professor is smart, kind, and polite to everyone he meets. He's able to solve puzzles with ease and understand the logic behind his foes. Unlike Sherlock, he doesn't make any illogical deductions. He is usually right 100% of the time. The only time he was wrong is usually when the player picks the wrong answer for the puzzles, but that doesn't mean he doesn't make mistakes himself. In his defeat quote, he expresses that sometimes you make a mistake and need to go back and look it over to find the right answer to solve the puzzle. While Layton doesn't hide his personality from others, he doesn't show his feelings to others. This is mostly seen with the topic of Claire and how he reacts to the situation. We see him actually freeze in place and then go after her, which surprises Luke. He has never seen this kind of behavior with the professor. It even freaked me out. We don't see Layton freeze like this. He had romantic feelings for Claire and clearly loved her. We see his care for Luke and Flora in different ways. With Luke, he does treat him well and teaches him how to be a gentleman. He lets Luke come with him on his adventures to learn from him. As for Flora, and by extension Catriella and Alfendi, he leaves them home alone. He doesn't want his kids to get hurt. He loves his kids so much that he would rather be in danger than let his own kids get hurt. When one of the goons from the unwound future tries to pull out a gun, Layton jumps in front of Luke and Flora. He would rather take a bullet for them. He cares deeply about his family and friends to put himself in danger and keep them safe. Now, he is slightly crazy, or rather less gentlemanly, when it comes to puzzles and the adventure itself, which is a character trait Alfendi and Catriella take strongly after, but this is a video for another time. This isn't shown as much in the Curious Village, but this is more present in the latter of the trilogy and in the crossover. In the crossover, Layton doesn't really hold back with his sword skills and his words. He does point out how illogical Phoenix is at court and picks up a stick to beat up cloaked figures who chased after Maya. He also doesn't hesitate to put Luke in a cage meant to burn witches alive. He just wants to solve the mystery and even leaves Phoenix and Maya alone at court to handle the court cases. And in the unwound future, he really doesn't hesitate to point out the flaws in Dimitri's plans. And finally, the professor is just smart with his deductions and reasoning. He literally has everyone catch up to him and work out the puzzles. He already solved the case while everyone else has to follow his deductions and leads. He already knows what is going on and even charges into danger to find the truth behind the case. We see this all the time when Layton charges into danger by using his new car or recklessly running towards danger without thinking twice. He wants to find the truth and bring it to light. He doesn't hate to do this over and over again throughout the series. With both their personalities being discussed, I hope some things did sound similar between the two of them, but their similarities are more apparent than just their personalities. The both of them use logic and excel at deduction in their respective investigations they do in their respective series. Both of them have genius apprentices at their side. Although Luke isn't too smart at the beginning of the game, he later matures and is able to handle cases on his own. However, he does have the ability to speak to animals, which is a unique gift. Iris has an MD and writes stories about Sherlock Holmes and his many adventures. The both of them do take in kids and raise them as their own. Layton adopts Flora in the Curious Village. He later adopts Alfendi and Catriella, while Sherlock adopts Iris and takes in Naruhondo, Susato, and Asugi when they are in Great Britain. The both of them have been known to work at the Yard. At the end of the Layton games, Layton does work with his daughter, but he also helps at the Yard from time to time. Sherlock Holmes does the same thing with Inspector Gregson and throughout the Great Ace Attorney. And the both of them are quite famous in their respective areas. For this one, it is pretty obvious. Sherlock has his book series and even proclaims himself as the Great Detective. Professor Layton is a famous professor and archaeologist who teaches at a school. They have both left their kids in the hands of others. Sherlock leaves Iris in the care of Naruhondo when he goes to board a boat to solve the boat's mystery. Layton leaves Flora, Alfendi, and Catriella behind to go on his adventures. The both of them believe in the gentleman's code. Sherlock literally takes in Susato and Naruhondo when they stay in the Great Britain, while Layton has always acted like a gentleman to anyone in need. They always help those who need help, whether they ask for it or not. The both of them will find the truth. This goes without saying. Layton doesn't rest until he solves the mystery, while Sherlock is known to be reckless until he understands the truth behind the cases. They don't care what happens to them as long as the truth is made known to everyone. Lastly, the both of them can solve cases. Layton has solved cases without the need of an assistant, and Phoenix, and for Sherlock, this is the same. They both don't need a partner, and they can solve the cases without one. They are both smart and capable detectives without the need of an assistant. Lastly, let's look at the relationship between Naruhondo and Phoenix. This one is more interesting the more I look at it. Phoenix and Naruhondo both arrive at Great Britain by using the latest form of transportation, by boat and plane. Both games take place in Great Britain rather than California and Japan. Both detectives are a step ahead of the lawyers and have the lawyers catch up to them. Both of them work hard to find the truth behind their cases, and also there is a sense of a strong partnership between them. First, they both respect Naruhondo and Phoenix and even help them with their cases. They offer their input and deductions to solving the case. Second, they all want to find the truth behind the cases. They want to find the right culprit and hold the culprit responsible for their actions. Sherlock and Layton are also both willing to do the work and have Naruhondo and Phoenix present their work in court. Sherlock and Layton are also the only ones who worked with Phoenix and Naruhondo in their respective games' mechanics. The two of them worked together with the Wrights and Naruhondos due to their jobs and friends. They care about their friends and families as well as even help those who really need it. They believe in those who are really innocent and need help. So, in conclusion, I do believe strongly that Sherlock Holmes is the ancestor to Professor Layton. From their personality to their other similarities, and to their relationship between Phoenix Wright and Naruhondo. So, there you have it. This was a lot of fun to do and I really enjoyed it. I hope to make more videos like these in the future if I come across anything like this again. Will I do a theory on Kingdom Hearts? No, because literally anything can happen and it would either make sense or not. But I do love that about my favorite game series. Either way, I do hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching this and have a wonderful day. Bye!